If we'll just give it a few minutes for everybody to get into the room, and then we'll get started. If you happen in on either Twitch or YouTube, go ahead and give me a shout out to let me know, number one, that you're there, and number two, that you can hear me talking. I always want to make sure that the sound is working properly before I get started. We're going to give it a couple minutes, make sure everybody gets here in here before we get started. Trying something different today, broadcasting in the middle of the day to try and make it a little more time friendly for our followers in Europe. I know there are a lot of you out there. I know it doesn't work as well for folks here in the United States who work a typical 9-to-5 job, work a day shift. But we're trying to have a little something for everybody. And I thought this might be a game that would appeal as much to Europeans as it does to Americans, since it has to do with a European country rather than Americans. But I'll give it about 3 more minutes and I'm going to go ahead and get started. You can always catch up later on each of these episodes as I play on the live stream. We'll go up live on my channel. They'll be in a playlist. I'll probably play for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes at a time. But I'll try to do these every 2 or 3 days. The next time I will do this again will be Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time here in the United States. Same time as I'm starting this one. It'll be Friday. And then I should let you know Friday when the next one will be from there. It'll probably be on Monday after that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. You can always catch up later on. The thing with Hearts of Iron, of course, is that when I make videos for this, I typically just kind of jump in and out with the action because there is some downtime, and as the game goes along, it gets slower and slower to sim through because it's very resource heavy, this game. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So just to kind of set the stage and talk briefly a little bit about what's going on. What we have here is an alternate world in which the Central Powers won the First World War. And the world that exists because of those things. And so you have a German Empire that continues to exist still under Kaiser Wilhelm II, who lived, I think, until 1940. So he still was very much alive in 1936. We also have the remnants of the former Austro-Hungarian Empire, but you see them all as kind of separate states. You've got Austria here, and then you've got a number of puppet states for Austria surrounding. But Austria itself is just this part right here. We also have, just looking at some other things, you have Russia. Is a no faction. They're under Alexander Kerensky, who I believe will get assassinated before too long in this. However, you have the Union of Britain, which is a socialist country under Philip Snowden, which is kind of cool because that's actually my dad's last name is Snowden. I have a different last name, but his is Snowden, so it kind of gives me a little bit of connection to it there, being from a long male line of Snowdens in my family from Britain. You got the Commune of France, which syndicalism is a big. There's a big spread of that in this game. Sweden, of course, and Norway are still monarchies. You have Herbert Hoover as the president of the United States rather than Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who would have been the president at this time in the real timeline. So that gives you a little bit of the background. There are going to be a lot of things happening. There will be a lot of changes, a lot of civil wars. There's a lot of upheaval that happens in this game. So I'm going to give it another minute or two, and then I'm going to start making my decisions as we go along here. If you're here and watching, I'm not able to see who's watching and who's not unless you just give me a shout out on the chat. So say hello, let me know who you are and where you're from. And I'm just going to do some updating to the stream here so that people see the title and everything. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I know we won't have a lot of folks watching during the day, and that's okay, but jump in as you wish. We're going to start by looking at national focus. Now here's the thing with the national focus on this game. It will not last, and the reason I say that is because soon after you get started on this mod, all hell breaks loose, so to speak. The economy is in the tank, and it takes a good year and a half to get back on your feet, and with that, it's actually kind of hard to do anything of any real worth. So we're going to start trying the economic rehabilitation plan, but I don't think it's going to last because of those issues. So I'm also going to go ahead and kind of streamline my production for the time being, because I just have very few things that I can even produce at the moment. We'll get a few civilian factories going. These are all going to take forever right now. The other thing is I know I have armies in all the various puppet states that I control. So we're going to get them going, and we're going to get some exercises going just to start building up some military experience. Dockyards, I'm going to go real simple here. I'm only going to produce submarines for the time being. And then with military factories, I'm primarily just going to go infantry equipment for now. Eventually I'll do more than that. And then we'll start working on research, military, industry, engineering, and I'll start doing one with mobile warfare for land doctrine. I'm going to be primarily kind of a blitzkrieg guy. It's the way I usually like to go on this. And then we'll just start queuing up some infantry divisions, keep it simple for now until I can get my economy up and running. And then I'll, hey Lucas, how's it going? Good to see you. Until I get my economy up and running, I'm not going to get too crazy with what I'm producing. Alright, there's going to be a lot of things like this happening where things are popping up like this. Despite the standing amongst the victors of the Weltkrieg, the war revealed the divisions of culture, class, and ideology within the empire ever so clearly, and the inner unrest continued on as the war ended. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are going to be happening here, so I may have to pause from time to time to kind of keep up with it all. Kaiser Karl, following in the footsteps of the assassinated Franz Ferdinand and trying to reform the multinational Austro-Hungarian Empire into something that could survive into the 20th century, launched a series of large-scale reforms. However, his efforts were largely blocked by nobility of the Hungarian side of the empire, leading to his plan of federalization progressing only slowly and only on the, I'm not going to try to pronounce that word, side of the empire. So basically what we've got happening here is you've got an assassination in the Soviet Union. We're going to probably see a civil war in the Soviet Union between the Soviets, or in Russia, between the Soviet Union and Russia, which hopefully Russia will win. Hello Fritz, how you doing? I am very, very poor in my German, but as I keep saying on a lot of my videos on my channel, I have been doing some German lessons on Duolingo. And I hope very soon to get to the place where I can at least have a passable conversation with some of my German followers out there. So we have no template for what? For support equipment. So I'm producing support equipment, but I don't actually need it, is what they're telling me. So we're actually going to cancel that for now. Alright, so we're good on everything right now. So as I was mentioning, if you were not here for the top of the broadcast, it's 1936. It's an alternate reality in which the Central Powers, Germany, Austro-Hungarian Empire, Ottomans, won World War I. So you see the Ottomans still exist. The Totalist Charter. So what we have here is you're going to see a lot of syndicalism, which is a form, I believe, of socialism, spreading like crazy. Edward VIII is crowned as King of Britain. George V died. And of course, in our real timeline, Edward VIII only lasted about a year on the throne. But here's the thing. Edward VIII does not control Britain because they are a communist country. However, he does control the Dominion of Canada. So you see here, there's Edward VIII. We're probably going to see a civil war in the United States. Hello from Argentina. Awesome. Very cool. Glad you're here. So, like I said, it's going to be pretty slow going early on in this game because my economy is going to tank big time. So, following the 1926 German intervention in China and the Treaty of Nanjing, signed in November of that year, foreign trade was left to the richest cities. Let's pause for a second because this is kind of a big deal here. Of the coast. So the independence of this consortium of cities was guaranteed by 8 powers: Australasia, Austria, Canada, Germany, Japan, and the French Republic, Russia, and the USA. So that may come back later on, but here's the big deal I was starting to refer to. Black Monday hits Austria. It has hit Germany. It would not be long before its shockwave rippled across Europe. Given its close proximity, Austria was among the first to be affected. The economy is struggling and troubled times lay ahead. So my stability goes down, my production efficiency cap goes down, my factory output's cut in half, my construction speed goes down by more than half, and my resources to the market are down 40%. Along with that, I believe at some point I'm going to take a hit on some other things. Alright, so Afghanistan has declared war on India. That doesn't really affect us too much. My stability going down does. And there, my national focus has been canceled. And so that's going to basically hurt me for the next year and a half or so, my ability to do much of anything. So we've got an Anglo-Afghani war between British Raj, which is, of course, India over here, Dominion of India. And they're kind of divided into separate countries now, too. Jacobins elected in France. So nobody is really what they would have been in terms of their politics. France is socialist as well. Austrian elections of 1936. Since federalization began and the Austrian elections were mostly reduced to the German-speaking part of the empire, 2 major parties have dominated the politics, the CS and the SDAP. So I basically am going to have to make a choice about which one I want to emerge victorious. So Canada and Afghanistan have peace. That's great. Everybody has peace with Afghanistan. So looking right here, we've got the SDAP, they're Social Democrats, and the CS are Social Conservatives. In both cases, it's basically a democratic form of government, unless I choose to support someone else. But for now, I'm not sure which way I want to go. I think I'll just go this way for now. The only real decisions I can make at the moment would be to endorse the SDAP or to endorse this other form here. So I'm actually going to go ahead and choose to... Wait, let's hold on a second. The CS invites Prince Otto to hunt. Am I going to try to reunify the empire? Yes. That is my biggest goal, and I believe there is a national focus tree for doing just that. We're going to say if he wants to, we're going to kind of support the Social Conservatives for now. I think that'll make it easier for me to go the route of empire. But right down here, I believe, is where we get some of those options. Here we go. So we've got military occupation, the Greater Austrian Empire. So we can reclaim Serbia, claim the Romanian lands, reclaim Silesia. So these are kind of all of my options that work toward that. But first, before I do any of that, it's going to be a focus on the economy. And it's going to take a while to get to that point because it really sets you back at the beginning on this game. Legislating freedoms, what this does is this is going to help with stability some. It's going to cost my political power, but it's going to help my stability, which I desperately need to kind of get my stability up a little bit right now. But yeah, that's my goal, to reunify the empire, and then I'll kind of see what the world looks like, because I expect the world to look very different by the time I get that far, because there's going to be a lot of things happening. Final tally is in, and after this hard-fought election campaign, we shall now find out the winner. Okay. And that bypasses a national focus. All right, so let's see what's happening here. The Treaty of Bucharest in 1918 officially ended the Weltkrieg for Romania, but at what cost? Romania was now dominated by German and Austrian industries. Most of her coastline was annexed by Bulgaria, and the Carpathian Mountains, are separating Romania from Hungary, were put under firm austro-hungarian control. So their first move is to large-scale military exercises, seemingly in preparation to seize the Carpathians and perhaps the lands beyond. So my social conservatives have won the election. We got to keep an eye here. This is Iron Guard Romania, which is basically a fascist nation, and that looks like that's where fascism is going to kind of begin to take hold here in Europe. French loyalists restore monarchy. That's interesting. So they're still controlled by the socialists right now, the communists. But now we've got a French monarchy as a possible alternate government. So let's see once again if it'll let me do a national focus here. It's not going to let me do much of anything because until I deal with the economy issue, I can't pick a national focus. HOI 3 is complicated. Yeah, this is actually 4 that I'm playing right now. At some point I'll probably play some 3, but this is 4. And as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast here, as we get further along, it's going to slow down. Because this is a very resource-heavy game, and no matter what you do, once there are a lot, especially as there's war happening, things slow way down. So we're going to keep working on things to help with my research time. I've got a few things that I'm working on right now as far as research goes, but we're just going to keep one eye on world events because there's going to be a lot happening, and we'll see civil war in the United States. I'm almost certain to see that. We'll see things change over and over again. We'll see a civil war in Russia, most likely. But I'm largely kind of frozen from being able to do much of anything until my economy recovers, which won't be until probably sometime in 1937. So the beginning stages as Austria on this game, things are pretty slow because you're handcuffed. There's not a lot you can really do except just kind of hang in there until things free up a little bit. So my social conservatives now control, they're about 53, almost 54% popularity. So what time is it where everybody is right now? I'm just curious. I know it's probably evening in Europe. Hello, in Sweden? Awesome. Part of my family tree runs through Sweden. I'm not even sure what part, but I haven't gotten that far in my research, but I know that some of my ancestors came from Sweden. They settled the area around what is now Philadelphia in the U.S., which I believe was once known as New Sweden. Oh, awesome. So it is early evening there for you, Fritz. That's very cool. So what part of Deutschland are you in Germany? A lot of my family comes from southwestern Germany. The death of Pius XI, the Pope. So let's see who the new Pope is. It doesn't look like we have one yet. So Lucas, it's pretty close to the same time for me. You're just an hour ahead of me. That makes sense, being down in South America. All right, so we've got a war happening over in Asia. Nothing that I think will affect us too much. So we have an opportunity here to influence the Italian election. We're not going to support anybody. We're just going to gather up the political power and let that fall where it will. There's mobile warfare and basic machine tools. So that's my first land doctrine. I'm going to keep researching those. And I'm going to keep focusing on industry as well, so that when my economy does recover, I'll start to get into a decent position. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's actually similar to... there's an increase in stability. That's what I was hoping for. Papal Conclave has chosen Pius XII. I'll have to look in just a minute to see, but I know that my family was from somewhere right around in this area here. I can look and tell you the name here in a minute. Have to go to my family tree and look it up while I'm waiting for some things to happen on the game. So we're into May of 1936 now. Like I said, it'll probably be 37 before I can do much of anything with my national focus. And I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, if you didn't catch it, that I'm going to try to do these live streams about the same time every couple of days. I'll be doing this again on Friday at about 1 p.m. Eastern, so the same time I started today. And I'll probably only do it for about an hour to an hour and a half each time. Just do small episodes of this. Hello in Sweden. Glad you're here. There are two of you from Sweden in here right now. Let me go back and scroll up and I can tell you who the other one was. I know we had at least one other person from Sweden. I'm just looking to see because I've got ancestors from both Germany and Sweden. And I'm trying to see if I can tell you where they were from. Here we go. Oh, we got a revolution in Siam, so you're going to see this over and over again. And there's the one I was alluding to that I knew was going to happen. The Russian Republic has declared war on the Soviet Union, so we've got another civil war happening here in Russia. The Soviets have the most western part of the nation, and we're going to see who emerges victorious there. We've got our 1st Infantry Division that has rolled out. Actually, several, it looks like. And we've got a chance to make some modifications to the government. And I have very few manpower available, so I think I'm actually going to go ahead and... no, I can't do anything to change conscription right now. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that there are some followers in Sweden. That's why one of the reasons I wanted to do a live stream right now, which would be the afternoon for me, because I know it doesn't work well for my American audience, but I would say about a third of the audience for this channel comes from Europe. So that's definitely something I don't want to ignore, and I want to be able to do some things just for you guys as well. We're going to go early mobilization here. It's not going to change much for my economy, but once we get out from under this issue of Black Monday, I'll be off and running. You can see right here I've got the aftermath of Black Monday, and once that's gone, I should be in a pretty decent position to really be able to start doing some things to make a difference and affect world events. So anyway, back to, let's see if I can find where this was. Okay, so, I'm just looking to see where my ancestor came from who settled in the U.S. that was from Germany. I had quite a few from Germany. Living in northeast Ohio as I do, this part of Ohio was settled largely by Germans from Pennsylvania. And a lot of the United States, probably more than just about any other country, our nation has its roots in Germany. Probably even more people can say that they have German roots than maybe even have English roots here in the United States. So a lot happening in Italy. Italy's separate countries right now. You've got, I think this is the two Sicilies right here, the southern part of Italy. Up here you've got the Socialist Republic of Italy. And then here you've got the parts which actually formerly, at least a little bit of this area, formerly made up the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and that's the Italian Republic. One of the reasons Italy joined on the side of the Allies during World War I was that they wanted this little piece of the Austro-Hungarian Empire given to them. And when they didn't get it from the Austro-Hungarians, they joined the other side. Poland has elected a new king. Yeah, can I show you what's going on in Sweden and Argentina? Absolutely. It's interesting that Russia just declared war on another country while they're in the middle of a civil war. So let's take a look up here at Sweden first. I believe Sweden is pretty much what it would have been traditionally. Yep, a monarchy under Gustav V. So they're controlled by social conservatives right now. Nothing diplomatically going on. So I'm not sure how that's going to all shake out, but I think at some point we'll probably see a war between Russia and Finland, which may affect what's happening in Sweden. But we'll keep an eye on Sweden for sure. And as anything happens, I have all the world events turned on, so anytime anything significant happens anywhere in the world, it's going to pop up for me. Yeah, the Palatinate was, I think, the primary part of Germany that settled the United States. So let's take a look now at what's happening over here. So what we've got here is what is this? So does Argentina not even exist as a nation anymore? La Plata? We have a town in Maryland in the United States called La Plata, Maryland, but I doubt that's how it is pronounced there. It looks like we've got an authoritarian military junta happening here. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, they're primarily controlled by this authoritarian regime. And then we've got Chile over here, and it looks like they're communists, or as it is known on the game here, syndicalists. We've got Peru, Brazil, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador. Let's see who controls, because these were traditionally colonies. It looks like this one is English. Same there. And then the Netherlands under Queen Wilhelmina. All right, we're into August of 1936. I still have the ability to modify my government if I so choose. Yeah, I can't really do much. Like I said, I'm really handcuffed on what I'm able to do right now. I still don't think it's going to let me do anything as far as national... Oh, there's a national focus. Okay, I can. So things have improved enough in my stability that I'm able to go with a national focus now. So what I want to do is I want to start fixing my economy. And the way that I do that is I've got to get down here to what we need, which means I have to go through both of these. And once I do that, it allows me to remove that Black Monday effect. And then I can start choosing some other things. Argentina annexed Uruguay and Paraguay. Yeah, okay. I knew there had to be some other countries that were missing. So, yeah, they'd be right here, I believe, if I'm correct about that. Or one of them's right here. Yeah, that's Uruguay right there. And then Paraguay was up here, I guess. So, interesting. I wonder if we'll get any of the background on why that happened. I guess if you played as Argentina, you'd probably find that information out on KAISERREICH. We'll keep an eye on those two countries. Germany, of course. Okay, so Deutsch Ostesien, I'm not sure where that is. Declared war on the Indo-Chinese Union. So I'm guessing maybe that's someone down here. Indo-Chinese Union's right here. So, because I know what became Vietnam was once known as French Indochina. So Indochina has declared independence. It looks like what happened was Germany seized what became Vietnam, French Indochina. So that's this country right here. And so now this part down here in the southern part, which was, of course, South Vietnam with Saigon there, has declared independence. A very different world that we live in here. So my goal, once I get into 1937 and I've completed my national focus tree to get all of these things taken care of, which will then allow me other options, my goal then is to start looking at how I reform the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. This is an economic rehabilitation plan. What that gives me is a couple of extra research slots, which may come in really handy as wars break out in Europe. Over here we've got focuses on the military, but down here is where we have all of the things that will allow me to affect the politics of my world. And looks like here we've got the option to go down the road of communism, or at least socialism. A federation of equals right here. Status quo is right here. I'm just going to kind of look over some of these things even after this episode, because we won't get this far today, and try to decide which route I want to go. So like right here, okay, so down here it looks like is the end result, the dualism restored, where you have the Austrian and Hungarian empires forming that dual kingdom once again. So it says here, will result in the integration of Hungary and the reformation of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So it's right there that I need to get to in order to make that happen. Due to his popular policies, one of our loyal ministers has managed to strengthen our ideology with some additional influence. We could use this to increase our popularity. So yeah, we'll focus more. Social conservative is the government that I have right now. We might as well make them as strong as possible. Hopefully that will help with stability a little bit. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the tricky parts about doing a live stream on a game like Hearts of Iron 4 is that it does slow down after a while. And so when I typically make videos for this game, I jump in and out of the action to kind of keep it moving a little quicker. Obviously, I can't do that here. So if you're following afterwards and you're not part of the live stream, it may get kind of slow and bogged down for you a little bit with not a lot of action. But that's just the reality of this game, and that's how it is when you play it. Am I going to remain neutral? Honestly, I haven't decided, because I don't know what the world's going to look like in another year or two. I'm kind of curious to see, because everything's so different and it's so fluid right now that the decisions I make now, a year from now, the governments of those countries may be very different. Right now, I'm inclined to oppose the communists just because they seem to be that's kind of the in thing right now, with Britain and France being communist. You've got the Soviets trying to hang on over here in Russia. So I'm inclined to go in the opposite direction of communism, whatever that looks like, whether it's democracy or fascism. I'm not sure yet. But I think at least for the time being, that's kind of the plan. Italy wanted Trentino. Yeah, so Trieste, I knew that was one of them. So I knew it was kind of this area here. I just wasn't sure exactly which territories they were. It's a fascinating thing to study the reasons behind the First World War. And it's really kind of tragic to look at how easily it probably didn't need to happen. And of course, I think anybody, even the most casual observer of history, would recognize that World War I was a direct cause of World War II. the way that everything ended up at the end of the First World War kind of made World War II almost inevitable, because it set things in such a way politically in Europe that it really was just inevitable that that was going to happen. Let's look at armor for just a second here. Yeah, we can go down the next row of panzers. So, World War I, I'm guessing most of you are at least a little bit familiar with it if you're watching this, but World War I, the simple explanation that people usually use starts with the Austro-Hungarian Empire. It starts with the assassination of the heir to the throne, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who was assassinated by, I think, Serbian nationalists named Gavrilo Princip. That led to the Austro-Hungarian Empire putting some demands on Serbia that they knew they would not meet. I think there were 10 of them. And when Serbia failed to meet all 10, the Austro-Hungarian Empire declared war on Serbia, who had a alliance, a guarantee of independence by Russia, who then had to declare war on Austria-Hungary, who was allied with Germany, who then had to declare war on Russia. And simultaneously then, because Russia had an alliance with France, that brought France into the war. And Germany had, I think it was called the Schlieffen Plan, which required them to preemptively strike in the West and take France out of the war as quickly as possible so they could turn their attention on Russia, who they thought would take a while to get going. But because of the fortifications, Charles Curtis elected President of the United States. So U.S. is staying Republican for now, which is ahistorical. And so probably the biggest mistake right off the bat in the war that Germany made was that they decided to invade through Belgium to get around these fortifications. By doing that, they brought the United Kingdom into the war, and then that was it. There were a lot of, it's much more complicated than that, but here's the main thing. The thing is that diplomacy failed miserably, and it failed because of the military power in countries such as Russia, Austria-Hungary, Germany. Elections in Italy, they're staying with who they have. Nobody wanted war, and it's really kind of almost sad to see. They call them the Wilhelm and Nicky telegrams, but Kaiser Wilhelm in Germany and Tsar Nicholas in Russia, who were first cousins, as was King George in England, a first cousin to Kaiser Wilhelm. They were behind the scenes up until the last minute trying to avoid the war. And I read recently that when the Russian and German ambassadors had to deliver the news that they were declaring war, that they wept and embraced and then parted ways. It was one of those things that once the ball got rolling, it almost seemed inevitable, and it was sad because everybody knew it was going to be a disaster. Everybody knew it was going to be horrible, and it seems like everybody felt powerless to stop it, because the armies of these countries insisted that if they didn't ramp up their military and get it up and moving right away, that the other country would, and then they would be caught flat-footed and be in trouble, while the other country had the exact same mindset. And so everybody was ramping up to war while all of them were hoping the war didn't happen. And of course, the things that happened after the war set the stage for fascism in Germany. And the whole thing was just very sad that any of it happened at all. Have I played the Great War mod? Yes, I have. I love it. I actually have a series on my channel where I played through as Germany. And I can't remember how many episodes I got through, but I want to say I got through 10 or 12. And unfortunately, at that point, I had a hard drive crash and lost everything that I had saved. And that was before I learned my lesson, and I started saving everything to the cloud, so it didn't happen again. So I was playing as Germany, actually, in the Great War mod, and it was really, like, it went nowhere. I tried to steer Germany toward democracy, The goal being that I wanted to avoid going into World War I as it happened, and it didn't allow me the opportunity to do that. Even though I went down the road of democracy, it still made all the events of the summer of 1914 unfold as they did historically. And what it meant was that I wasn't prepared for that war because I didn't think I needed to prepare for that war. And so it took me quite a while to get into position where I was ready to fight it. And I was finally starting to see some success when my hard drive crashed. So you can check out some of that and see at least how far I got with it. And I spent a lot of time talking about the history of World War I in that series as I kind of talk through things as they happened. So at the very least, it's a good opportunity to kind of hear me talk a little bit more in depth about some of that stuff. I'm going to keep focusing on mobile warfare doctrine. Too many financial interests on both sides, and there was a lot of people wanting a war. Yeah, absolutely, Fritz, you're absolutely right. There were a lot of people who wanted those wars to happen, and it seems like the political and diplomatic aspect of things took a back burner to the folks in the financial and military industries. Haiti declared war on the Dominican Republic. That's interesting. They share an island. So right here, we've got Haiti on the western part of the island of Hispaniola declaring war against the Dominican Republic here on the east. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. So let's take a look at the U.S. I'm surprised a war hasn't broken out. Typically when I play KAISERREICH, by this point there's a civil war in the United States. But so far, that's not happening. France is still Soviet, or still communist. We can actually take a look here in the diplomacy and kind of see in the country list what's going on in the various places. The Third International now, which is made up of some communist countries. We've got France, Italy, and Britain. Haitian Empire flashbacks. Yes. The Entente. We've got Canada, the Australasian Confederation. India, Kingdom of France. So the Kingdom of France, of course. So what do we have here? So the Kingdom of France actually exists as a sovereign power. They've got Sardinia and then the French colonies here, largely the Sahara Desert, so there's not a lot happening. Okay, here it is. There's the American Civil War that I knew would be coming. So what we've got here is we've got most of what was the former Confederate States forming the American Union State under Huey Long, who was a senator from Louisiana who was assassinated. We've got the United States making up New England and then most of the central and western parts of the country. We've got the communist part of the United States, which makes up what we in the States know as the Northwest Territories, which was Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin. But add to that Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Long Island, so New York City. And then out west, let's see, yeah, we've got the Pacific States of America. If you've ever seen the TV series, The Man in the High Castle, that's actually a thing. It's a puppet state of Japan. All right, so we'll probably go another 15-20 minutes or so. I'll go up to about 2 p.m. Eastern time with this. We'll come back again on Friday and do another hour. I want to do these in small chunks so they don't eat up a big part of your day. And it's something that people can always go back and watch later if they want to. So let's see here if we can make changes. No, it's not going to let me do that yet. We've got to have stronger enemies before it'll allow me to change my conscription laws. Democracy prevails in the Philippines. Interesting. So let's take a look at Hungary for a second. They've got a king there. He's a Habsburg. So, who is the king? Is that the same king? No. Because I've still got... Oh, that's Germany. Okay. Yeah, so it is the same king. So even... This is kind of interesting. even though we are separate governments and I have no control over them whatsoever, they do still claim Karl as their king. So that's pretty interesting to see that. Of course, he's known as Karl in German, but in Hungarian or Magyar, he's Karol. But it's the same thing. All right, national focus. We got to continue. We've got to get all of these done so we can get out from under the issue of Black Monday. Can't do that one yet. Oh, I have to do compromise with the SDAP first. That's why. All right, so we're into February of 1937. We should get through a good bit of 1937 before, at least to the middle of the year, before this episode's over. Pacific states of America declared war on the U.S., so we've got a multi-nation civil war happening in the United States. Serbia crowns King Alexander II. So I guess this is Serbia here. So they've got their own king. If I remember right, he's a historical figure, and I believe he was assassinated. I think his assassination's on film, in fact. For some reason, I think I remember seeing a video of the King of Serbia being assassinated. Now, Alexander II of Russia was assassinated. Who was the guy who was assassinated in the 1930s? I know there was a king who was assassinated. I'm looking it up so I can tell you here. Yeah, okay, he was the Serbian king, and he was assassinated in 1934, and it was on video. Okay, so here we go. Every 10 years since 1867, Austrian and Hungarian delegations meet to discuss how much each side of the empire puts into the common ministries, the ministries for foreign, military, and financial affairs. However, due to their loss and demand for reparations for the Croatian territories, the renegotiations of 1927 came to a standstill, resulting in Hungary not having paid anything into the common treasury for the last decade. I don't think that's going to fly. Hungary's state as a renegade crown under the Kaiser's reign has been a thorn in Austria's side for a while now, and at least some efforts have to be made to bring them back to the herd. So we're going to invite them formally to start making their payments. In the meantime, I need to take a look at resources because we're not getting getting what we need from the U.S. because of the war that's happening there. We're going to trade with Romania, who's got some oil themselves. So I think we're going to have some decisions that are coming down here as it relates to how the Union operates with one another. We get to upgrade our tanks now to light tank 2s. And what I want to start doing here is I want to start producing some armored units if I can. So let's take a look for just a second at that. Robert, how's it going? Good to see you. Are you saying you're watching from Italy? If so, very cool. What with a name like Robert, it doesn't sound very Italian. Or were you saying that that's where that happened? The Serbian king was killed by ultra-nationalists, the Black Hand, who later murdered Archduke Ferdinand. Well, Robert, I'm talking about, this is actually one that happened after. The one I'm referring to is, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I was going to pull up on the screen, but it's actually on my phone. There was a Serbian king in 1934 who was assassinated. And he's the one who they just declared, I think, Alexander II. But yeah, the Black Hand were the folks that were responsible for Ferdinand's death as well. But I think it was 1934, and you can actually see a video of the assassination of King Alexander of Serbia. He may have actually technically been the king of Yugoslavia at that point. I'm not sure. Some of you, like me, are old enough to remember when Yugoslavia was a country. It was a puppet of the Soviet Union. You're on vacation in Italy. Very cool. Something my wife would very much like to do someday is take a vacation to Italy. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at... I want to start producing some more armor. Because my national... or my military focus as far as my land doctrine has to do with building armored units. So we're going to have to make them from scratch, though, because it doesn't actually give me a pre-built armored unit. And they're going to start small because I don't have enough points to add more than just a few. Whoa, what just happened there? So it may not let me do that yet. I don't think I have enough points to do that, I guess, is the problem. Armored division, okay. There we go. And we're going to add, I guess for now, we'll add 4. And then I'll edit those as I go along a little further. Okay, there we go. And then we'll start queuing some of those up. And those are going to be my primary attack force when I start getting into wars. Alright, Hungary attends the... Alright, so here's where we're going to have a bunch of things happen, and this is probably how we'll wrap this episode up, is with some of these decisions. The Ausgleich, I hope I'm pronouncing that somewhat right, has always been conducted as a meeting of the Austrian and Hungarian elite. However, we have had politicians from Bohemia, Galicia, and Illyria petition for a more open multi-ethnic negotiations this year, with delegations from all constituent states of the empire present. So, what do you guys think? Should this stay between me and the Magyars, which is the Hungarians? My wife's family's, her grandfather's from Hungary, so... let's see. You're right, invite the Bohemians, Galicians, and Illyrians. We need to think bigger. Invite all peoples of the dual monarchy. I'm inclined to invite everyone. It's going to cost me the most political power, but that's honestly not a big deal to me. But I would hear your thoughts on that for a minute, if you have any input as which way you think I should go with this. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to mean. Invite them all. William, hey, how's it going, buddy? Glad to see you. I'm thinking the more the merrier. The more people I get on my side, the easier it will be to reform the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So that's kind of the direction I'm leaning right now. Alright, I think we'll do that. So Hungary attends. There was some doubt they would. Naturally they do. I think we're going to start seeing a bunch of options pop up in the next couple of weeks of the game time here. Romanian Civil War. I guess we kind of thought that would be inevitable. So we've got a group of pro-monarchist officers have defected and seized control of Bessarabia and Moldavia as a stage of operations for a monarchist restoration in the country. So Romania, which is a fascist government right now, looks like it's going to have a civil war between the existing fascists and the old guard, or the monarchists. That's going to hurt, of course, my trading for oil. How to solve an ethnic conflict in Austria-Hungary? Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a mess. Anytime you've got that many strong nationalist kind of sense of kind of belonging, they're not going to see eye to eye on things. The fall of Moscow. It looks like Bohemia agrees to attend the conference, so that's good. Bohemia would be part of what later became Czechoslovakia. I think it's the Czech Republic now, rather than Slovakia. Galicia agrees to attend, which is up here in what became Poland. Illyria, I think, is further south. Hungary protests against the other delegations. Of course they do, because it's less power for them alone. Intervene in the Romanian Civil War. Okay, so I can support the legionnaires, which I think would be the fascists, support the monarchists, or stay out of it. I'm going to stay out of it. All right, so here we see Soviet Russia. It's not going well for them, I don't believe, in the war right now. There's our compromise with the SDAP. We're going to do subsidies for farmers, which is going to open up some building slots. Oh my gosh, what just happened? Well, it looks like my game just crashed, folks. Thankfully, I have a auto-save every month, so I can go back to where it last was at. So we're going to wrap it up right there. Kind of not the way I expected to wrap it up, but that happens occasionally on some of these mods. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thank you guys for checking this out. My apologies for the crash there at the end. That happens from time to time. At least we got to within a couple minutes of when I was going to end anyway. So we'll come back again on Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and then probably again on Monday after that, and we'll pick up right where I left off with my last save before it crashed right there. So thanks, guys, for being a part of this. And if you do want to see, look for my German World War I Great War Mod series. I think I played 10 or 12 episodes in that, and you can hear a little bit more as I talk more about the background into World War I. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm out for now. We'll see